Auxiliary Returns, maximizing your inputs for effects.
Aux returns are input sections on the console that are usually dedicated for the return signal of outboard devices such as reverb and delay units. In many of the older or small format consoles, these features don't exist. If your console doesn't have this feature, I'll tell you how you can get your return signals into your mixer in a minute. But first let me show you how these return sections work. On this Mackie mixer, like most other mixers, the aux returns are located above the subgroup sections. This particular console has 4 stereo returns. Located on the back of the console are the aux return jacks. Most effects units like reverb and delays use stereo outputs. Auxiliary returns are where you would plug them in. On this mixer, the only control that I have for these returns is this level control. The signal that comes into these returns goes directly to the main outputs. If I had a reverb unit hooked up to these returns, I could adjust the amount of reverb going to the main output by rotating this level control. For those of you that don't have aux returns on your console, this is a little mixing tip that makes this process a lot more flexible and easy to use. In the professional scene, we use this method all the time. Instead of running your returns from your effects units into the aux returns, run the returns into spare channels on your console. For example, I would run the outputs of the effects units into channels 19 and 20 of this console. Panning the channels left and right now gives me a stereo return for these effects. I now have more control over the signal. I can send it through the subgroups before it goes to the main outs, which is crucial if I'm making a live recording from the subgroups. Or I can use the EQ section of the channel to change the sound of the signal. I can even run the effects back to the monitors for the performers through the pre-fade aux sends on these channels. Warning: be careful not to turn up the same aux send that your effects unit is getting its signal from on these channels. You will create a feedback loop between your console and the effects units. And trust me, you don't want to have that happen. Some other uses for these aux returns would be inputs for your CD players and cassette decks.